Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Benny, Olivia, it's great to have both of you today.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So before
I'll chime
I
in for
start,
Olivia too. It's great to be here too.
Okay, let's talk for Olivia. Hey, everybody, it's great. I'm Olivia. It's great to be here. Oh my God, that's like that scene out of Baywatch when Zac Efron.
It's not me running.
Oh
that's
my God,
for
I
sure.
can't even do that. That's like that was an X-rated quote. I can't even go there. Benny, so we have a great show for you today.
Of course we do.
Yeah, it's going to be a live call-in show too.
Awesome.
I don't think Ambrosia knows that. I think Alexa knows that. I don't think Ambrosia knows that because Alexa and I were like planning this out like before. Benny, you know how we talk about technology?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing, and then we're going to get rolling. So we just went through this eclipse, this full moon, and people were emailing me, and they're like, da 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 da. You're Sagittarius and you're Capricorn, and you have 4 planets in each, and this is it. This is what's going to happen, all instantaneously. Like stuff's like going to change, and you know me, Benny. 16 years when I first started, if somebody said that to me, I'm like, yeah, right, yeah.
Exactly.
And
just kind of like in one ear, in one ear, out the other. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that, and I'm going to live in the Hamptons tomorrow. Yeah, tell me that.
I want to go.
16 years ago, I love the Hamptons. 16 years ago, I would have believed that. Now, when somebody calls me, previous guest, a host, and they say, listen, Baccili, this and cuss word is going to happen now. Something about the eclipse. I'm not an astrologer, so I don't know, but I got 2 people here that might be able to give me a little insight to what other folks are talking about. But here's the deal. So the eclipse happens, and then yesterday, we're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, Merrick's finished with this part of the tech. We can actually start to plan our website. So that was one thing. I didn't even put it together. Then the next thing, it's like my dentist says, hey, you got to come in. I got that stuff you wanted. Come in and do. That's like yesterday. And I get an appointment for it. Then the next thing that happens is, wait a minute, Pat, you need to be doing this, and this, and we got a plan for you to do it. So yesterday, like the moon, yesterday, and I'm thinking, something's shifting. Something's changing. And Mike Murphy coming back? Like what? And so today I have these 2 amazing women with me, and they know that what I'm talking about is the way they live their lives every day of their life. But I think they have fun too, because I've seen like a couple of their pictures where they're like having fun. So I was having fun when I was their age too. Ambrosia Matthews is a psychic medium in a channel. And guess what? You're going to get a lot of that today. You're going to hear what their stories are. I generally could read their bio, Benny, but it's like so boring when I do it. It's better just to ask people like, dude, how did you get like that? And so when I think about that, and I think about what people have done, and I look at Alexa Hauser, and I think about, what have you done? What are you about? How did you get to be the most amazing person you are? How did any of that happen? How is it that both of you have gotten together? Whether or not we're looking at what you do and how you do it, and what you're doing together in your podcast on our network, Transformation Talk Radio, there is an energy, and it's almost as if a spark gets ignited and people come together, just like the team here, to help us get through the transformation. Alexa Hauser, Ambrosia Matthews, both here today, are going to help us understand the energies that is calling them forward, but even more importantly than that, what they have said yes to in their life's path. Welcome, both of you, to the show.
Hello, thanks for having us.
So Alexis, you say your name first and then Ambrosia, so everybody can hear your voice. So they can tell my voice. They know my voice.
Right.
But let's, let's start out with this. I want to ask you a question, Alexa. I want to ask you this, and Ambrosia, I might ask you the same question, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's fair if I tell you that, then you're getting all prepped for it. But look, I'm just read a few things about you, and we're going to talk about each of you more. But you didn't just get here by getting here. Maybe you did. I'm curious about what challenges and obstacles you had to overcome. Alexa, you go first because you were on the Zoom first. Okay. What did you have to overcome to bring you to this moment?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having us. This is really fun to be here. And it's definitely been a journey. I really wasn't on a spiritual path up until about 3 years ago when I had this kind of pretty intense spiritual awakening. I was actually working in the music business. I was kind of just living this crazy life. I wasn't sleeping. I was, I went to get prescribed Adderall so that I could stay up all the time. Like, I don't even know if I really needed it. There was just a lot that felt very out of control, and everything around me was crashing down. My relationships were suffering. My parents were worried about me. Even though I was working so hard, I was like the poorest I'd ever been in my life. Like, my bank account was so low. Everything was just going terribly. And one day, out of the blue, my face just started swelling. I had started having these skin problems. I'd never had skin problems in my life, but the left side of my face started swelling up. And it happened once. I had to go to the emergency room. They kind of didn't know what it was. Then it happened again 3 weeks later. And this time it started cutting off my airway. And for some reason, the second time that this happened, when no doctor could explain to me what was going on, they just gave me an antibiotic, kind of stuck a needle in my face. It was horrible. And, sent me on my way. It was like I had this download in that moment that a lot of things need to change. Everything needs to change. I need to stop doing this job. I need to start focusing on health. I need to change my diet. And as I started shifting all these things, I need to meditate. I'd never meditated before. And as I started doing all these things, it just kept leading me back to spirituality and all these things that I think I'd kind of like come into contact with along my life, but never really took seriously. And anyway, that sent me down this crazy path that has been amazing and just like brought me to this place where I am now, where I'm so happy and so fulfilled. And I met Ambrosia, and we started creating beautiful things together. But yeah, even just along these past 3 years, there's been a lot of doubt I've had to overcome and a lot of self-worth. And Ambrosia and I'm sure can expand upon that more, but that's me.
But Alexa, I want to ask you this because you are an expert in emotional freedom technique, EFT. And the reason I want to bring that up is because, those of us that have been hit really hard having a spiritual awakening, not because we were one day sitting there and we're thinking, oh, let me have a spiritual awakening, but because we were just literally ready to fall off a 50-foot ladder. Yeah. And, was your passion and purpose for building that practice, was that also based on, those quantum healing techniques? Was that based on your own personal healing experience? Or did you kind of get an insider like scoop on it before that?
Oh yeah, it was based on my own personal healing experience. Yeah. I came across it as a tool, and I was like, what is this? I started working with it, and I slowly started to realize this is what I've needed my entire life. I never knew something like this existed. And when I was a child, I was a very intuitive, very precocious, very empathic child who could not understand my emotions. And I remember my parents getting so frustrated with me and me getting very frustrated with them because I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't feel good, and they didn't know what was wrong. And so it just created a lot of inner turmoil and outer turmoil. And so when I found this tool, EFT, which is also known as tapping,
yes,
I was just like, this is
tapping.
Yeah. This is for me, and everyone needs to know about this.
It was like coming home, wasn't it? Was
yes.
like coming home. Yeah, yes. I get it. And,
yes.
the other thing too is, Ambrosia, you're going to have to help me with something today.
Sure.
I love you too. I'm so glad we did it for today. You know, it's like, oh, how can I talk to them? First of all, you have a fabulous podcast, right? But I want to talk with you, Ambrosia. Same question. Okay, I'm not gonna give you a different question because it's not fair. But look, you're a psychic medium. You're a mom of 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing, communicating till 5. And unless you're like me, I got sent to Dr. Jacoby, right? That was it. But
they threaten that a lot.
They did. They threaten that.
Yeah.
But how, for you though, what was your, how should I say it? Let's call it a spiritual awakening. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you just popped out and we're kind of like that. That does happen. I popped out and cried for 4 years. But what I want to know from you is, what is it that sparked that knowing in you? And then what did you have to battle uphill to overcome? Because if you're seeing stuff at 5, I'm not kidding. I did go to Dr. Jacoby. If you're seeing and hearing stuff at 5, at some point your parents say, oh, we don't think she's talking about the invisible friend.
You know, when I was 5, I was terrified of it because I realized this wasn't normal. I also realized that I was hearing people that weren't in the room with, that I couldn't physically see, and they were asking me for help. And so, you know, between my mom telling me like, don't tell anybody that, they're going to think you're crazy. And she did the best she could, but it was very terrifying. And then going into high school, kids making fun of me, and no one actually believed me until I was in high school. And I was telling everybody how someone was murdered because I was watching it happen.
Wow.
And then we actually went back and looked it up on the internet. And yeah, that's what actually happened at the spot we were at. So that's when people were like, maybe she's not making this up. Maybe this isn't for attention. But I was still really scared of it until I was 30. So similar to Alexa, I was, well, not that similar, I guess. I was pregnant. I had just lost my job because I was pregnant.
Don't you hate that when that happens?
I know.
We could do a whole nother show just on that. I'll have to invite you both to my Power Up show where we talk about all those kinds of things.
Oh, I love that.
But you really did lose your show.
I really lost my job because I was pregnant, and I ended up suing them for discrimination. Yeah, because you can't do that. You can't just fire someone for being pregnant. Anyway, I digress. So we had just got a new place, and we had no way to pay for that new place because I lost my job. So I was in a really depressed state. I was sad all the time. I was yelling at my other kids, and I was just not in a good place. And my niece actually suggested watching The Secret. And so I watched it, and everything just kind of clicked for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been watching like ID channel. I've been watching and listening to like scary things. No wonder I'm always in fear. No wonder I'm so depressed. And so we're in the old house, and there's this moment that I said, okay, if I'm supposed to embrace this gift, if I'm supposed to help people, then just show me a sign. I just don't want to feel so alone. And I started crying, and it felt like someone was hugging me. Mm. And it was the most beautiful moment because it felt like everything was going to be okay. And obviously it was. So.
But, you know, isn't it interesting too, because sometimes it takes that, you know, sometimes this is my theory, you know, nobody like, I didn't read a book. Like, this is just my theory. When I look at my life and I listen to what, you know, like coming up on 10,000 people talk about this stuff. My theory is that we are given an opportunity to take a particular path that feels so right for us. And we're shown this, you know, at a young age. And yet, for some strange reason, we either don't believe in it, or we can't seem to get right on track with it, or we think that we can't have children and still be who we are, or whatever it is. There's a million reasons, right, why I can't be me. Oh my gosh, that's going to be my book title. A million reasons why I can't be me, because I have a million reasons and I had them. But I ended up here quite similar. I dialed the wrong phone number at the most depressed time in my life. But you know what the three of us have in common? When we stepped into it, how did it feel for you, Ambrosia? Did it feel like coming home?
It did. It felt a little scary at first, to be honest, because there's that fear of failing. There's that fear of, what if I'm wrong? What if I've made the wrong decision?
Every day.
Yeah. But what I was doing, I didn't love. So you've already made the wrong decision. You know what I mean? There is no wrong decision.
And then even if we think there is, we can hire Alexa to work with us to figure it out and get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
How did you two come to do the podcast? Because what we're gonna do in the show today, we're gonna open up the phone lines, everybody, both if you're watching on Facebook or you're listening through our live stream or through KKW, whatever that is, we're gonna open up the phone lines. And if you don't have the phone number, 1-800-930-2819. But how did you meet? I mean, people would think, oh, they must live together no, right? So aren't you in Philly?
I'm in Philly and Ambrosia's in Virginia. Yeah.
Right.
We actually met through another podcast, interestingly enough. So when I went through that awakening experience I told you about, and I kept being led back to spirituality, I just needed positive in my life. So I typed the word positive into Apple iTunes podcast, and this podcast called the Positive Head Podcast popped up. And it just was really illuminating. It was everything I needed to hear. It was this whole community of spiritual seekers. And anyway, long story short, after a while of listening, I actually ended up working with that podcast, and they gave me every Friday to do an episode where I was interviewing the listeners. And Ambrosia was a listener of the podcast, and she had this amazing story that I had remembered that she had written into the podcast a while ago about how her daughter was the reincarnated soul of her grandmother. And it was this amazing story. And so she reached out to me and was like, I'm that girl. I'm the girl with that story. And I freaked out. I remember I got so excited to talk to her. I told everyone in my family, like, oh, I'm talking to this girl today. I'm so excited. And so we did the interview, and afterwards she just kept emailing me and being like, hey, there's a spirit here that I think is related to you. And I was like, really? I was like so excited about the whole thing that we were like still talking. And I just thought Ambrosia was like the coolest person I'd ever met. Truly.
Oh, that's sweet. So
come on.
My version,
everybody,
was I was stalking
let's
her
just do that.
After that.
You were stalking her?
I was stalking her after that because I just had this knowing, like, you're supposed to do something with her. Keep contacting her. Keep following up with her. And at the time, actually, I wasn't doing professional readings. I had started it, but it didn't go anywhere. So I stopped doing it. I got a corporate job again. And I said, do you want me to give you a reading? And she's like, sure. And that was one of the ways that I just kind of kept that communication, because I didn't know where it was supposed to go.
Wow. We're going to learn a lot from you today. And, one of the things I want to ask you about is, really long time ago, I did an interview with Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, Mark Anthony. And we were just doing a show, and he would do a reading. And then, then when he was done, I would jump in and say, hey, blah, blah, blah. Do you mind if so we started to do that very, naturally. And somewhere during the show or after the show, I think Rocky called me and he said, you two should do a show together. And so I was like, yeah, sounds good. So you think, okay, it felt really good, like when they brought it up. But then as time went on, I'm like, oh, scariest thing that I could possibly do. Like scarier than jumping out of a plane. But you have to know them. And they are like, hey, Dr. Pat, believe it or not, we are going to do a show together, Mark Anthony and I. And it's called The Psychic and the Doc. And I'm probably going to need some coaching from you two, because that is a scary adventure to really have something like this and step out in the world. Has it gotten any less scary, Alexa, for you? Or were you not like, are you like, no, I'm from Philly, I'm not scared?
Oh, no. No, interestingly enough, I think like on the outside, people might describe me as like the more adventurous one, maybe like, or Ambi, you describe me as that sometimes, but actually Ambrosia is the one who, you know, I'm like a perfectionist. So like we started recording our podcast and then I was just creating all these reasons not to get it out there. And Ambrosia was like, we need to release this someday, even if it's not perfect. So, you know, we really work really well together. We really push each other. And now after doing this for 2 years, we do all kinds of things. We run coaching programs, we have masterminds, we run retreats all over the world. We do all kinds of things with our community. And we've been through a lot of really scary stuff, but yes, I would say it has gotten a lot easier. And today we still have new things coming up all the time because you're always going to in life. But honestly, we've grown a lot and we've developed a very thick skin, I would say, and really come into our own with all the things that we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If everybody's watching on Facebook, take a look at Ambrosia, which is Ambi. You refer to her as Ambi. And I think that's what you call yourself on the podcast. But every once in a while, take a look at Ambrosia, because when we first got on the call, you were like looking at me and I'm like, I'm going to talk to you during a break. I'm like, okay, who is she seeing here?
No.
I mean, is this like a freaking crowded room here with me today? And I'm thinking, oh my God, these two have got something going on. All right. Before we go to break, how do people find out about you? How do they schedule time with you? How do they listen to the podcast? Like all of that.
All of it. Do you want to share it?
Oh, yeah. So go ahead, Alexa.
Oh, Ambrosia, you go.
Oh, go ahead, Ambrosia. Okay. I could do it if you want.
Our podcast is called Innerbloom. We're on all of the listening platforms. To go to our website, it's innerbloompodcast.com. To view or to book a session with me, it's ambrosiamatthews.com. To book a session with Alexa, it's alexasoothes.com.
Alexa, what?
Soothes, like SOOTHES, like
Got
soothes.
Like
I just keep saying the word, like that's going to change anything.
Did you like make that up?
Yeah, I guess I did. I really liked, I like that word. I like associating with that word because I like to
like that word.
People.
Yeah, it's nice.
I like that word.
And it rolls off the tongue so nicely.
I can already see the emails coming in from the listeners right now. I can just hear it. And they'll probably call in, right? Okay, that word, Pat, that's not for you. That's not your word. Leave it alone.
What's your word?
What's your
word?
Well, my new show is called Power Up with Dr. Pat. Benny calls me. Okay, so I have nicknames. Pistol Pack and Patty, Pollyanna Patty. We can't, Pistol Pack and Patty is not politically correct anymore, so we don't use that one. Pollyanna Patty, Patty, Positive Patty. Oh gosh, I can't remember. It's like a hip hop term, but I'll think about it during the rest. It's like a hip hop.
I like
term.
All of these.
I like them.
They fit you.
Yeah. And recently, and I don't quite know what to do with it. Recently though, when we all went down to this video shoot down in LA, and they started to refer to me as Rev Doc. And after about 10 selfies and a whole bunch of people with a lot of gold chains and bling and stuff, I finally said to the producer of the video, like, what does that mean? And the woman, Jane looked at me and said, Rev Doc, Reverend Doctor. And I said, dang, when did that happen? Let's take a short break, everybody. We're going to do some readings. We're going to put it together and see how all of this works. And we're going to talk about tapping for a minute. So I want everybody to think about this question. I think I shared it, Benny, once. What was the childhood thing, and in my relationship when I was 23, childhood thing, and in my relationship, 17-year relationship, what was the number one thing, no matter what I did, people told me to stop doing? Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. All right, we live. Welcome back, everyone. I was laughing, so I didn't hear the music fade out. Welcome back, everybody, to the Dr. Pat Show. I'm Dr. Pat, and I just got a text message, and somebody said, "Who's Baccili?" Like when I made that reference, right? So that is my last name. Dr. Pat Baccili is my last name.
You've been on for almost 20 years, and that person.
No, but really, folks, and you know, Vinny, it's really interesting because we're working with a lot of people now, and one of our hosts came back and said, "Dude, like nobody even knows like you're the owner of Transformation Network and Transformation Talk Radio." And I said, "Well, okay, and because my path, and I want to talk to you both about it. For those of you just tuning in, I want to tell you all something really interesting. First of all, we're talking about intuitive empowerment. Alexa and Ambrosia, or Alexa and Ambi, I think that's the way you refer to yourselves. I'm not sure how you refer to yourselves, but
Ambi, Ambrosia, same person.
Okay, it's the same person. That I would love to have two names, because then maybe I could be two different people. Not in this lifetime. Innerbloom Podcast is where to go. Transformation Talk Radio is one of the places that you'll be able to get their podcast, but they're also on a gazillion other places. You know, the point is they are showing up in the world, right? I want to ask you both this question. And by the way, if you want to give us call in and find out, maybe you'll get a reading, maybe you'll get an EFT tapping. 1-800-930-2819. Okay, so before the break, I asked a question, and I said, "What do you think as a kid growing up and my first relationship, right? What do you think I was always nagged at, yes, to stop doing? What do you think that is?"
Alexa, you want to go first?
I like how you passed that off really quickly.
I did pass it
Well,
off.
I would have done the same thing.
Psychic.
I would have totally done the same thing.
That's why I don't want to go first.
Like, yeah, Alexa's like, I am the tapping person.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh,
it's not my.
I'll give you a hint.
Yeah, okay.
I just said the word.
That's a lot of words.
I would say tapping.
Tapping?
Tapping.
Oh, you
I
were
was a constant tapper.
You obsessively
Really?
rhythmic tapping.
I was not well. I thank you for that compliment. It really wasn't very rhythmic, and that was the problem. Because
what were you tapping on?
Anything. I would tap on my knees. I would, and as a matter of fact, if you could see my hands underneath here, I am like with my thumbs on my keyboard going like this. And then honestly, to this day, my best friend, Linda, right? She's like, why are you tapping? Why are you tapping? But
It's a way to self-soothe.
Yeah, I've heard that's how people like release stress.
When I like I'll share videos on tapping on TikTok and other social media platforms, and people will see it and be like, "Oh my God, I've always done that, but never knew why I was doing that." And I genuinely believe people do it intuitively. They just don't know that that's why they're doing it. It's why they shake their leg. That's why they tap on the desk, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it became such a thing. And I want to ask you both about the planet and other things, because this is totally related. We are making some judgments about ourselves and about others and about the world. And we're making some judgments based on my language, not yours, naive observations. I could almost use the word ignorance, because ignorance is not a bad word. Ignorance is what got me here in this seat. Actually, it's what got me to be Dr. Pat. I was really ignorant about the entire schooling thing and how you even apply. And it was a blessing. But, you know, we're living in a time now where, you know, we are observing and watching, and we're looking for ways to help ourselves, right? We're looking for ways to get answers to questions. We're looking for ways to try to make sense of things, right? Up until this last eclipse, it didn't make sense. But all of a sudden, Monday after Sunday, I have a whole new insight, which my astrologer friends still say I don't understand. But you both said yes. You said yes to your lives. You said yes to your gifts. Ambrosia, for you probably have to explain to your children at some point in time if you haven't done it already.
Oh, no, yeah. We talk about.
Right.
people that
right?
passed away that might be in
Right.
the house. And
Yep. And Alexa, I can only imagine you're on a plane and you're sitting next to somebody and they say, "Hey, what do you do?" And you say, "Hey, I'm a tapping practitioner." Right.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you both. You have a bird's eye view into what is happening in the world and how to possibly heal it. Put you both together, you know, the happening and the healing.
mm-hmm.
That's a show.
Happening in the healing.
Can I ask you both, what is your perspective as you look out, as you lean into it, as you feel into it? And Ambrosia, if any of my family members show up, just let me know. They tend to
I'll
do
do
that.
it. I also kind of like, I'm trying not to read people, so I'll stare off a little bit. Anyway.
Yeah, they're Italian, and trust me, they're not going to let you get away with that.
Okay. Some people do think, like, when spirits come to me, they're like, "Look at me," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to. I'm so sorry." Like, it's
my
kind of
eyes
funny.
are up here. But that's like just an interesting tidbit. Ambrosia will tell you, like, spirits really do keep their personalities very much, and I think that's so. It'll be interesting. I guess we'll know. We'll know if Dr. Pat's relatives show up because.
Yeah, I think my
Italian.
stepmom, if anybody were going to show up, it'll be the two women, my birth mom and my stepmom. They're different energies. My stepmom's energy is all about perseverance. This is a woman had her first child at 12 and second at 13.
Wow.
And believed in positive living. I mean, I'm here
Yeah.
because of her today and what I do. But she would look at the world today with a real Southern accent, right? She was from the South, and she would look at the world with those red lips and those long red nails and that blonde hair, and that she was a beautiful woman. And she'd look out into the world, and she would have an expression to define it. I want to ask you that question. Can you each define it energetically from what you see and how you would reference what's going on today? Ambrosia, why don't you go first? I keep picking on Alexa.
What I would say is this is the year of the Great Awakening. That's what I keep calling it. Maybe I've heard it somewhere, but I'm stealing the term. But it's awakening for people that are not spiritual. It's awakening for people that are spiritual, people that are on the fence, people that are religious. However you classify yourself is irrelevant. It's really time to wake up to things that you haven't wanted to see, to wake up to things that are uncomfortable, and to wake up to new opportunities or the way you want the world to be. And the way you want your world to be too, because that's just as important.
Yeah. Is it can I ask you this follow-up before we go over to Alexa?
Sure.
I hear people talk about this time in, let me just simplify it, really two different ways. I hear people talk about it the way I just talked about it, like instantaneously moving into this week, just feeling a shift. It's like some enormous energy got unloaded, but yet at the same time, I'm driving Linda crazy and Jessica crazy because I want to do some new things, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the other side of it. You know, there's a side of it where those of us, even if we have those ideas, like we have a moment, like I had a moment yesterday where it was almost reminded me of when I was homeless. It was that I can't even express the feeling. It's just a hollow, empty, no self-worth place. Now I'm smart enough now and I'm old enough now that I recognize those moments and I know how to move out of it. But it was scary for me.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you think I'm unusual, or do you think people are getting a little bit of each?
No, I feel like it's not unusual at all. People are getting a little bit of each. I've talked to a lot of people and I'm just trying to figure out the best word. A lot of fears are coming up. A lot of fears. So think of the universe working in the way of, oh, you're not afraid of this. Well, how about this one? How about this? How about that? Are you sure you really overcame this? Are you sure you really want to live this life? Are you sure you really want to be doing this? And so I think it is in each moment. We could talk about 3D and 5D and all that, but I think it is, how do you really want your life to be in each moment? And it's not to emotionally beat yourself up if you do slide back into that old mentality, because that's not going to help anything. But it is to understand that we're all human beings and we came here for this experience, and you can sit on whichever side of the fence you want. You can have a great experience or a bad experience, but it's your experience.
Yeah. And, Alexa, from your perspective too, because I'm sure that what Ambrosia just said, right, is also being ripple effect towards you, to the people that want help, right? Mm-hmm. They don't know what kind of help they want, but they just know this doesn't feel right or doesn't feel comfortable. What is your sense from what you're seeing in the world now? How would you describe that from a quantum healing perspective?
Oh, well, I'm seeing, as Ambrosia said, it's time to wake up, right? There's been a lot of things that have occurred on our planet for a very long time that just simply are not okay. And they're not okay. We're no longer able to sustain life if they continue. And so there's this big shaking happening, like shaken to awaken, right? Everybody's being shook. Everything that everyone knew, even us who've been doing our spiritual work, who've it's a little easier for us, I'd say, just not that we're better or worse than anyone else, just that we've been preparing a bit for this. But it's still hard. I am planning a wedding. I'm supposed to be getting married in 4 weeks. Like, imagine planning a wedding through this. Like, I've had to relinquish full control and be like, I might not have that wedding I thought I would have. I might not get to walk down the aisle with my friends and family. I don't know. And I think what I'm seeing with regards to everyone's response to that is actually very encouraging in a lot of ways. I'm seeing a lot of people coming to me and saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to work on my stuff. I'm ready to deal with this thing. And I think that's the most important thing, is that yes, is this a challenging time? Absolutely. But what I keep saying, I keep giving this analogy of like, it's almost as if every person on earth has been in this passive aggressive relationship with each other for hundreds and thousands of years, just forever. And we're now at that point in the relationship where we've all decided that we're just going to tell each other how we feel. And we're just screaming at each other right now. And it feels very like the boat is being rocked quite a bit. And if you've ever been in a relationship like that, where you've held something in and then finally you decide, I'm telling you how I feel, it sucks for a little bit. It sucks. It's not the most comfortable. However, it gets better after that, because at least everyone sees where everybody is. At least we can have more direct communication. And so from my perspective, we're just in that period of time where everybody's just like shouting and releasing their anger and saying how they really feel. And it's uncomfortable. But I do believe, from what I see and experience, that it's all ultimately for the good of our society. It's leading us to a better place. It's going to be a journey.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because Jessica's getting married too, our Jessica.
Oh,
and yeah, in August, we're all going to go to the wedding, right? It's going to be, yeah, in Montana. August. She's getting married in August.
Beginning or end?
At the end.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But for a moment, we're thinking, really? Still? Yeah. Without thinking, this is something you planned, like for your life, right? Yeah. And so now, instead of thinking, are you going to still get married and you're not, we're all having to get creative. Yeah. And so, we're all having a different plan about it. But it's those things that we, at some level, maybe have taken for granted, that we're having to make those decisions about how we're going to live our lives. And that's what I think both of you are doing. Mm-hmm. It's, how do we live our lives? I want to ask you, I want to get back to you, Ambrosia, if I could. What do we say to people that might be, my language, on the fence about living their lives? Because I'm noticing for us, we're talking to people that are like, I cannot believe you called me, because you're right. I've got to get a message out there. And then other people are like, I have just closed my doors. I just we just stopped our business. What are you feeling? Is it that simple, or is it 50 shades?
I mean, I think it's 50 shades depending upon each person. However, like I said, really think about this. This is really interesting. If there's an aspect of your job for one part of your life that you don't like, then it's going to be amplified at this time. And going into next year too, sorry guys, but going into next year, it's going to be amplified. Same thing with your home life. People are forced to be at home with their family, and that might not be the best situation in their mind. And so it's really forced to look at your stuff and really see if you're living the life of your dreams, or are you living your life by default? What is making you happy? Do more of that. And for a lot of people, because I used to be one of the people that would say it's not that easy, it absolutely is that easy. But you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust that the choices that you're going to make, they're going to be okay. And that nothing catastrophic will happen, and that you can always get out of it. I know you said you were homeless. I was homeless as a teenager.
Yeah, 17.
I was 18, and that's when I decided to move to Virginia. I was from California. But it was a choice that I made. I moved across country because at the time I had no other options, or very limited options, right? And so you can look at any choice and think, well, this is the only thing I can do, and that's fine. But I think it's when you're so worried about making the wrong choice, or you're so worried about, I don't want to do this because what if, then that's when you really get in this pattern of stuck. That's when you really are on the fence of, I don't know what will make me happy, when the thing that will make you happy is just deciding and jumping.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, because I think we're at that energy and that point in time again. And, like I talked about before, I'm not an astrologer, so I don't know what people that study astrology talk about. But, one of the interesting things, Alexa, for you is that I packed everything up like in 1992. And somehow I came out here for a trip, spent time with my friend Pat Hartman, spent a little time in the summer here, ended up staying here 8 weeks, went back home. One of my other friends said, I'm moving to Seattle. You want to rent a truck and go? And I said, sure. From Montclair, New Jersey. Just like that.
Yeah.
Like it was natural. But Alexa, sometimes the people around us, we start doing that stuff. And boy, they're like Dr. Jacoby again, right? But how have you found it to follow your heart? What have you discovered about yourself?
Yeah.
That literally got you both together. Whatever that thing is, each of you has it because you're both together, right?
Yeah.
Doing great work in the world.
Yeah, I've discovered so much. I mean, I've always been kind of like a very creative person and a risk taker, I would say, since early on. However, I was like a risk taker who would like create something and then I would break down and not know how to move forward. I had this pattern that just kept repeating of like I'd create the thing and then I would fizzle out. I would go into hiding. I didn't know how to get to the next step. And when I met Ambrosia, it was like everything just clicked into place. Like I said, we're such great support for each other because what the other one lacks, the other one has. And when one is down, the other just picks them right back up and pushes them forward. And it's what in the past 3 years, I've broken more patterns personally, more like limiting patterns personally, because this person right here, like wouldn't let me stay still and I wouldn't let her stay still. So and I think that's because we both were ready for it. But with regards to following your heart, I really like what you said about, certain things just when they're in alignment, they're just easy. Like it just feels like it just happens so fast. I mean, even me becoming an EFT practitioner, when everyone asked me, how did that happen? I'm like, well, I heard about it. And then somehow I ended up on the phone with this woman named Sonia Sophia, who has taught it for 30 years all over the place. And then somehow I heard myself asking her if I could come to her EFT practitioner training, which was happening 3 weeks from then. I had $1,000 to my name. And I said, I will invest every cent I have into getting there because I just know I'm supposed to be there. And I've never felt that strong of a knowing before, but I did it. I trusted and I was rewarded. Like as soon as I trusted, it was like I was there. It was like I was always supposed to be there. And from then on, it's just, I started making more money. I started feeling way more in my purpose. And so you really have to trust. Like you really have to trust when something's calling you.
There's no question about it. I mean, you know, I never look back. I go back, 16, 17 years. I don't even know how long it is, but I go back to that wrong phone number. And the only time I ever looked back to doubt myself was from outside pressure about it. Because look, I had just finished a doctoral program. There's no way I should have been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on airtime. I should have been getting that big fat job, consulting job, because everything I had done for the past 10 years of study was all about setting me up for that. My research won awards, the whole thing. I was the star pupil, and man, I just couldn't do it. I was depressed. I couldn't do it. But the first time I got behind a mic, right there in the studio with Benny, it was like breathing. It was like a feeling that you can't describe. And see, for me, I really am holding that space for the world. That in this time we live in, where we're watching our family and friends get sick and die, in that time we're living, this is a time for us to also experience such freedom, such passion, such voice, right? Just incredible opportunity. But it doesn't come without some scars, I think, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I got caught a mystery disease in 2004, 6 months after saying yes. I came down with a mystery disease because I think the universe saw me getting ready to bail on this. And I got so sick that there was nothing else I could do except this. It just doesn't require any real lifting, right?
Yeah.
But this is why you're doing what you're doing. I hope you both will come back.
Yeah,
definitely.
And what I'd like to plan for the next time you come back is I'd like to plan a live call-in show. I'd like to really plan that so people can see what you do and how you do it and how you work together. Two things. Would you remind people how they can find out about you each, how they can work with you, podcast, all of the above? And then my last question is, I'd love to know your personal message and what you want to leave us with. Who wants to go first?
I'll share the information, and then Ambrosia, you can share your message first. Okay.
Oh no, you have to do the message too.
I'll do the message too.
Okay, yeah. So
we're just alternating.
Yeah.
We got it.
All right, good.
Cool. Okay, so where you can find us, if you want to listen to our podcast, it's innerbloom.podcast.com. We're on all of the listing platforms, as Ambrosia said. And you can book a reading with Ambrosia at her website, ambrosiamatthews.com. You can book a tapping session with me at my website, alexasoothes.com, SOOTHES. And yeah, definitely check out our podcast because we have an amazing intuitive community full of people who are awakening to their gifts, discovering their gifts, connecting with each other, building things together. So definitely check us out. And we do a lot of really fun woo-woo things as well as a lot of personal development stuff. Ambrosia, your message.
Okay, my message. Let's see. This came through. Okay. This is coming through, so I'm just going to say it verbatim.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you awaken into your ultimate power, your ultimate deserving, your true gifts, so you can see the light within yourself.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Alexa, what do you want to leave us with?
I just want everyone who's listening to this to know that you're not stuck. No matter what, you can move, you can shift, whatever it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how hard it is or feels, you can shift it if you want to. And we are two people that help people do that, but there's so many more who are awakened, who are online, who are ready to help support you in growing, healing, and creating the life that you want to live here.
Wow. Thank you both for saying yes to a purpose definitely greater than any of us could actually imagine for ourselves. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for trusting in the universe or whatever you believe in that got you to bring your gifts to the world. And thank you for doing that through our network as well as the other networks, because it is a bold step. It is a bold move to come out there and do that. You know, a bunch of years ago, I was a director in HR for what was known as the phone company. And I got to host or be part of Gloria Steinem, which people may or may not know who she is. And I remember her sitting across the table from me. And I got to tell you, she is larger than life in person. And I remember her sitting across the table, and I fumbled some silly question out of my mouth to ask her. And she looked at me, remember the big glasses and the hair, and she looked at me and she said, every day you have to do something outrageous. I never forgot that. I have never forgot that. And every day, at the end of the day, I ask myself, have I done something outrageous today? And she meant it for all of us. You know, you're looking at three women in a format of media that we are not expected to be in, by the way.
Yep.
So thank you all for doing that. Thank you very much for joining us. And I really hope you'll come back and we'll plan that show where we can do live call-ins and a whole bunch of cool things.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having us.
And Ambrosia, you can text me and let me know if my family has shown up today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to take a short break, everybody. We're not done yet. Please check out their podcast and you'll find out a lot more from them. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.